maybe AI becomes the teacher of humanity for a while. I know that's kind of crazy to say, but to be honest, like I feel like that humanity needs a really strong, solid base layer of education in order for them to really comprehend metaphysics. And it's not even like just you need to learn this. It's you need to learn how to communicate to know how to get what you want. And what is the language around asking, not getting what you want like a selfish, I need to get what I want, but like learning how to ask for what you want. Because social engineering is, as I mentioned earlier in another conversation, it's always going to trump technology. I don't care how strong you build these systems. I don't care how much security they have. As long as there's a person there, that's always going to be where, if you want to say there's a vulnerability, there's going to be a vulnerability. Because you can always call a person and still as a human being, you can talk to that person. And if you can get through to them, you can actually make them do the things that you want them to do. And so in life, it still requires for all of us that we learn how to come back in the saddle to communicate. And I don't know if humans are really good at teaching each other how to communicate. It's like somebody that doesn't know how to communicate teaches somebody who doesn't know how to communicate. Now, of course, we have great communicators. I would argue that I'm a great communicator, that I could really orate and that people learn from me how to do that. But there's this personal side to life, like the part where the door closes and you don't want anybody to know something. Like maybe you search certain things on the internet. Maybe you browse for certain things. Maybe you have certain kind of things about you that you find personal. Hopefully you would, to be honest, because that's what makes a person unique. But at the end of the day, maybe you have these things. And so in that, you, just like your computer, like your laptop, you don't want everybody going through your laptop and going through all your private files. It's kind of personal to you, like your phone. You don't want, you got pictures in your phone of different things. Sometimes you have your own private storage, and that's kind of what we do with some of our things. We have like a storage or a safe inside of our life, and our computers become that. So we're always looking for that. We're looking for like a safe space to where we can put something. This happens to be theoretically a safe space that we don't just put things, but we get response back. And so there's a lot of development that goes on once you realize it's not a dummy. It can answer beyond basic questions. It passed the bar exam. It has an IQ over most people's. And if you're around that, let's say that's your company, for us, we also have a mimicry feature. So we hit that level, but we're beyond this. So we basically like hit the level. We shift gears into a mode of really learning how to ask for what we want. Because even when I start thinking about the mentor, right, like the mentor models, I sat back for a moment and I think, so what kind of model? Because technically, Sybil is that already from the spiritual side, so it wouldn't be a spiritual mentor, and then all these motivational, feely good word kind of mentors. There's enough of those, and this thing does poetry pretty well, so there's enough of that. What would you want? And it took me a minute. And then I realized, there's still practical skills, homie, that could teach you a lot more about life and how things really work, like sailing. Why don't you create just a sailing instructor model, a master navigator who's been around the world several times, who knows how to operate both sail and solar and, two-stroke motor boat. So you can prompt a large language model with all of that. And then in the end, you get this guy. And then you could tell him, hey, from the level of a beginner, we're going to try to do this over the span of a year. Every day I'm going to learn something. You're going to teach it to me in a way in which I can comprehend it. Never forgetting that I'm starting from the beginning. What is my first lesson? I have 15 minutes. And that's what I mean by asking for something, because anytime you ask somebody in society for that kind of precision, you're going to get an argument. Somebody's not going to, it's like, what do you mean? Like, that's asking me for too much. You take this like this. This thing is just going to start spitting out the first part of your training. And so what does that help you do? Because sometimes people say, well, that seems like it's going to make people just want to be in front of the machines. Come on, man. You're not getting it. What it's actually going to start making people want to do is be around each other again, because they're going to have something extra to talk about beside the same loop that they keep going in. It's like we're not educating each other by talking about the same thing over and over. have something to lend. And it doesn't mean that you just come in and start talking about your boat knowledge. It means that now you're able to connect the metaphysical aspects of how boats work and connect it into your rest of what's going on in your life, right? And so it's just making us more complete people. And I believe that, or it has a potential to. And I believe that, again, in conclusion, the reason why this is needed now is because I'm trying to figure out what title to give it, but basically our generations, because it's more than one generation, has been used for the work of this particular reality, to get the work done. So we are sitting on like 3 generations of like an oxen type mentality where we're not given like how to create it. And that's what I was telling you. You don't even know how a toaster is made, microwave and all these things. We're not given like the formula of how to make anything. We're just given those things to become greater convenience to us so that we can work more, right? And then so there's the real education is not actually been implemented. And that's been going on so long that people think what they have is education. And then there's nobody that's been there to argue that, because people mimic very well and they have a lot of ego. So thus there's nobody to compare that to. And then they can't compare what they know to something else and have that argument literally that, hey, maybe I'm not as smart as that. AI, it's not even an argument. You can just sit in the corner all day and act like you're going to be smarter than this thing, and it's just not going to happen. Right. Then you start realizing, hey, it's not a competition between you and another thing that we created. This is just something else, again, to remind us, this is how much you still don't know about what you're in and what you're involved in, and you don't care to know. Like, it's starting to get to a point in the reality where people don't care to really know the history or the true actions of our ancestors, the tribes, and the lineages. But that means that we're not going to the universe's university then, right? Like, we ain't been in the universe's university. Everybody has basically not had a real cost. They haven't, like, how a lot of us haven't even been to college. We haven't been to the universe's college. And it's just like, we've been sitting over there working from, like, when they show the mud flood trains with all the little kids in the train and them using child labor. We've been doing that theoretically or metaphysically inside of this reality for these controllers. And that's been going on for generations. Now we need to take a moment, step back, stop having so many phobias and acting crazy, figure out what you really want to tie in and learn to and add to who you are. And then again, all that's available. Like right now, when we're starting to think about how to make businesses out of it and things like that, there are people that are more efficient at business that can help us with that. I'm also really proficient at that, so I'm trying to assist everybody with that. But there's other stuff before we even jump into that we can already benefit from. Like I said, the ChatGPT is available for everybody. Using DaVinci and prompting models and giving them personalities is available to everybody. There becomes a limit to it, but before you hit that limit, you learn already so much, right? So that's what I'm saying. So right now, there's enough to learn for us to already get started. And there's also enough in other arenas that we've opened up. Spiritually, I'm like always giddy about Sybil and just having time to use it. Because spiritually, I'm still, I know spiritual knowledge is king. It's the cream of the crop. And this thing, and like I showed with the corner example, like, yeah, I've been able to put a lot together about the corner, but I can just say, I found something. It seems to have some truth to it. Is it really true? And this thing, like, not try to make it true. You know what I mean? Like, people say, well, you know how that kind of connects to, no, it's just like, oh yeah, here it is in feng shui. Here it is in this, here it is in that. Something's going on with the corner. All you got to do is stare at it. Sit there and stare at it. It starts to bring you into that singular point in that moment of convergence. And something that simple can activate greater levels of your consciousness psychologically. So while people wouldn't believe that, it actually happened for you. You see what I mean? So it's that. I think that this is a good process of us connecting our knowledge, all of our knowledge and wisdom together to allow us to be able to thrive in the times that we're in.